This show is just continuing to teach me that you should never do anything that has to do with food around extraterrestrials. Because it's just not going to end well for you. Hello, interwebs. I hope you are all doing well because I am here to review the latest episode of Alien Earth. This one, episode 6, The Fly. I was hoping the title would end up being a reference to David Cronenberg's The Fly because I love that movie. Unfortunately, it is a bit more on the nose in terms of what it means by the fly in this episode, as a lot of the plot developments this episode have to do with the fly-like monster that we have been seeing throughout the past few episodes. So a little bit of a disappointment there. That being said, to start off this episode, I do end up liking this episode. There are some things here that I genuinely enjoy. However, I think that this was by far my least favorite episode of the show, mainly to do with how the plot that we knew was going to happen at some point gets kicked off, which is how the monsters start killing people on Boy Cavalier's base. We all knew it was going to come, so I'm not shocked that that's the case here, but it is a little bit contrived, especially based on characters acting dumb. And this show has done that a few times now, so much so that people have been calling it out. It's been a regular conversation, such as Boy Cavalier sending in his kids into a danger zone when he could lose millions of dollars. Literally, just last episode, we had the one scientist eating a sandwich that distracted her, which allowed the fly thing to lay eggs in her water bottle and all of that jazz. So this has happened a few times now. That being said, I'm willing to let moments like that go if there's a way that you can make it work and explain it. Boy Cavalier sending in the AI kids, he's an Elon Musk style billionaire who prides himself as a risk taker. So that's going to be some shit that he's going to do. He styles himself a smart man. He's not actually a smart man. So I buy that. The woman eating her sandwich, that pushed it a little bit further, but you could get it's a high pressure situation. She's actually not the top of her field. She's a scientist who's willing to ship herself out for 65 years on a ship and be considered on a crew that's considered expendable. Not that she knew that. So I get that she would be kind of rough around the edges. And again, here we get a justification that Isaac is a kid. So, of course, he's going to do something stupid like open up the doors to try and feed the monster food, which, as I was literally watching, I'm like, oh my God, kid, no, bad, stop. But the fact that we've gotten so many of those over the course of the last few episodes, it starts to build up. One or two, especially the Boy Cavalier one, I think is actually a really on point criticism of how capitalists like Elon Musk work. But the more and more you do it, the more and more frustrating it becomes. And here, this was just, I was screaming at my screen, no, to Isaac, do not do this. This is bad. It's dumb. And obviously it ended up in his death, which was very frustrating. And then gets even further with Arthur going in to grab Isaac's body when he discovers it. And again, I'm like, Arthur, what the fuck are you doing, man? Why are you being so fucking stupid? And he turns his back and obviously allows, I believe Nibs is his name. Is it? No, Nibs is the one who thinks she's pregnant. I'm forgetting all of their names, but the one who is being manipulated by Morrow is allowed to, get Arthur trapped in there. So, yeah, I just feel like there could have been a better way to go about this that would not have relied on so many characters being dumb. Again, you can argue it like Isaac's a kid. He would make a stupid mistake like that, but it just was very frustrating to watch. The two things that I do like about it, though, because there are a couple things that I like, that it's clear that Kirsch is very well aware of all of this going on and knew that he was setting up Isaac to do something dumb because he was a kid. So, yes, there is a little bit of setup that Kirsch knew that Isaac was going to be, make a mistake. Because clearly he's trying to set Boy Cavalier up for failure because he doesn't like Boy Cavalier. But, which that element of it I do like. It still just comes across as too dumb, though, in a frustrating way. The other element of it that I do like is that clearly the eyeball alien is in on it. There was a little bit of discussion last week, and I noticed it too, but I didn't mention it in my review, that some people interpreted the eyeball knocking the tube that it was in to try to, as it trying to warn the scientist that the fly thing was trying to lay eggs in the water bottle. I didn't mention it because I was like, it could go either way. And here I think we get a pretty clear determining factor that the eyeball alien is not on human side. It is very much actually seems to be a big old friend of the Fly, being like, hey, I'll set you up to murder some people, friendo, if it'll help me out. I do like that there is sort of a somewhat symbiosis between the Fly and the eyeball alien, but clearly both of those aliens are not big fans of the xenomorph, or at least the eyeball does not seem to like the xenomorph all that much. So I like that there's like weird politics within the aliens as well, to a degree. I don't know how much the Fly is conscious of the eyeball alien's friendship, and even if the eyeball alien likes the Fly as so much as using the Fly when it can, but clearly it feels like the eyeball alien is the smartest one in the room. So that's kind of fascinating to watch. So I do like those elements of it, but ultimately that sort of contrivance really just frustrated me. That being said, there are a couple other things here that I do like. The storyline with Nibs, I also really liked, because the Boy Cavalier's second-in-command guy basically ordering them to remove her autonomy, erase her memory, and reset her identity and turn her emotions down low is, again, a fucked up way of like how putting yourself in these uploaded bodies could literally give you, if it's run by corporations, could have them control your memory, your identity, who you are. And the two scientists having, the married couple, having differing views on how to deal with that, with Arthur having a little bit more ethics than his wife seems to have, even though his wife was also seemingly arguing for Nibs' sentience, Nibs' autonomy, but still willing to go against it if it means her job over the kid's autonomy. So interesting commentary there, and Arthur getting fired in that regard. The one problem with this storyline, though, is that they had Wendy wake up right next to Nibs when she woke up, which I didn't love, because it's like, oh, you're gonna do all this stuff to reset Nibs's identity, and you make a big point of you don't know what's going to do to her, but then you have her wake up right next to a girl who literally just spouts all the things that's gonna cause her to have a crisis of hey, your memory's gone, hey, your sense of feeling is different. It's just weird that they did not have her wake up with the therapist lady and be like, hey, how you feeling? How you doing? They just let her wake up on her own next to Wendy. That felt a little, again, contrived. It does lead, though, to a really good scene between Wendy and, I think, Marcy. Well, I keep calling her Wendy now. Now I want to call her Marcy because she's asserting her identity and saying Wendy isn't her name. So I'm going to try and use Marcy. This is one of those difficult things as a trans-affirming person. I always want to make sure I use the characters' names that they identify with, hence Isaac, over Toodles, I think was the other one. But it gets weird and complicated and messy when I can already barely remember names super well in TV. I'm always bad at remember character names, and then it gets worse when they have a bunch of other names. I try to be a good trans, all right? Don't cancel me. Anyways, Marcy, aka Wendy, has this really great scene with the therapist lady about oh, I don't want to be like you. I want to be something like Kerr says. We don't have to worry about feelings. We can, be something, be more like machines. And I like therapist lady literally saying that. Well, Kerr obviously would say that. He's biased in that way as a machine. And it also is interesting because Wendy is arguing, oh, Marcy, I want to not feel like Kerr says, but she's feeling that way because the therapist lady cut off Nibs's emotions. So it is this whole thing of oh, I feel bad, so I want to cut off my emotions, and I want to just make myself more cold because I'm hurting right now, which, is always an interesting story, sort of, I always think is an interesting story when it's handled well, because it's sort of oh, I want to be less human by making myself more like a machine, when in reality, there are some things to be said about humanity's willing to set each other against each other and ignoring bodily autonomy and all of that. But that's not the way to go about it. So yeah, I found that, again, interesting philosophical conversations and contradictions being brought up by Marcy. And I like also Nemec. I keep calling him Nemec, but what's his name? Hermit Joe. He brings up to Wendy hey, you can say no. That's a way to actually assert power. It's not always a yes. No is okay to say as well, and framing it through the idea of bodily autonomy and control of your own self, was a really cool way to bring it up. I really, really like that. And I like that Hermit is clearly trying to get his buddies and everyone to help them escape the island and working with Arthur. Arthur sort of like says, like does the whole thing like, I'm going to speak nice things while the camera's watching, but also take a look here. You can maybe escape. So obviously Hermit's going to try to escape, which good timing on that, my friend, because everything's about to get fucked. So that'll be a fun, probably next episode as all things go to shit here. Couple other fun bits. We obviously get the Boy Cavalier mediation scene with Yutani. Really like learning a little bit more about the world building of like how different companies have these like sort of mediatory things and basically just like figure things out through deals. And I love Boy Cavalier just playing Yutani, basically being like, oh yeah, I'll get $200 million, but also I still get to keep your aliens for 6 weeks or however long it is through the quarantine thing. I really liked that. That was really a lot of fun set up there. And then also the sort of dick measuring contest between Kirsch and Morrow, basically being like, oh, you outdated model. And it's like, oh, it's half a man sort of thing. Like, again, it's just a cyborg / robot dick measuring contest. And that was kind of fun. I did enjoy just that little piece there. It sets up a good rivalry for them that'll probably play into as we get into the later part of this season. We only got 2 more episodes left, I believe. So we're getting into the end game now. Just looking through here, yeah, I like the baby xenomorph. It's quickly growing very, very quickly, as we know xenomorphs to do. And Wendy has got some level of relationship with it, which is fascinating. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I want to talk about. The only thing that I wanted to mention just is about last week's review. I talked about Morrow and how he very much was a company man. That's the only thing that he had. I should have mentioned in my review of that because this is just part of the analysis of him. Yes, he does end up being very much like company man guy because that's all he has. His daughter's dead, but he isn't like chomping at the bit to like kill everybody on the ship. So there is a level of like, yes, he's kind of a cold asshole who is a company man, but he also has some level of care, and he even shows, I think, some level of sadness at like his second in command dying on the ship as well. So I did enjoy that, and I meant to mention it. So worth bringing up. Otherwise, this was another okay episode. Again, I think this was my least favorite episode of the show. Again, loving the show overall, but I think this was definitely the least favorite of it, especially just on how contrived and dumb Isaac's death was. Also, should at least say it too. It does, again, this is a horror thing, so like, you know, characters are gonna die. That just comes with the territory. Was sad to see of the kids that died, the first one to die was gonna be the kid of color. I know there's multiple, but like, again, it's a horror thing. Characters are gonna die. Probably most of these characters are going to die by the end of this show. But it's just sad that was the first character that they chose to have get kicked off, especially as it is like a common trope of like killing the person of color first. No, I was a little disappointed on that end of things. Again, not the worst thing in the world, also not my thing to get upset or angry about. That's not my place. But just something I was like, that's a little bit disappointing. So yeah, on the whole, a little bit of a disappointing episode. It's the first one that I come away with being like, okay, that was fine, and I got a little bit more frustrations with it than I have in the past. But you know, every show has one. Hopefully it'll kick back up, especially as we get into some of the more, alien xenomorph nonsense of it all in the final 2 episodes of the show. But what did you think of it all? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But beyond all of that, I hope you, my friends, live long and prosper.